Hey, what up, legends? Welcome back to Legend 3245, where today we're going to be doing a bit of a different video. So, today we're going to be talking about the paradox of Patrik Laine. Yep, you heard me right. The paradox of Patrik Laine. So, the story of Patrik Laine is that he has been seen as a generational talent. He was supposed to be the next Ovechkin. And so far, in his pretty young career, he has not lived up to these standards. So the question I ask is, what went wrong? Whereas Patrik Laine failed to develop his game. So, Patrik Laine is a Finnish player who is 22 years old, from Finland, who was drafted second overall in the 2016 NHL entry draft after Austin Matthews went first overall. He was seen to be an elite goal scorer who could pile up goals no matter what. But so far, we see that in his young career, aside from 2017-2018, when he had 44 goals, 26 assists for 70 points, he has fallen pretty behind what people expected out of Patrik Laine. So then, what has been the problem? Why hasn't he been able to get up to that next status? Now, don't get me wrong, Patrik Laine is an amazing player. When he's on his game, he seems like a very dangerous goal scorer. But the problem is that these goals come in streaks. Even in his 2019-20 and 2018 season, he had spurts in which he would score goals at will, and then other times when it would just seem as if he's disappeared off the ice. So what is the problem here? Well, to compare it with the first overall, Austin Matthews, who has already established himself as one of the premier young talents, I think the problem here has been a combination of lackluster play from Laine, some attitude problems for Patrik Laine, and as well some mismanagement by Winnipeg Jets when it comes to Patrik Laine. So, Patrik Laine, when you think of him, you would think an elite talent like him would work really hard. But here's the thing. Patrik Laine has already talked a ton of trash to his teammates, like when he called out Ehlers, and so far in his young career, it seems as if he really does not really as much care about the team as a guy like Austin Matthews, or a guy like Pierre-Luc Dubois would do. Because Patrik Laine is already unhappy with Winnipeg. This isn't how you do things. You don't demand trades. You don't ask, I want to be traded from this place. No, especially not when you're 22, like Patrik Laine, right? He's been trash-talking many people, including his teammates, and it's clear that he's unhappy with the situation. He's unhappy with his teammates. But then why is he so unhappy? Because honestly, when you look at Winnipeg, you feel that the teammates have been really good. the Jets have treated Patrik Laine like their franchise star, exactly how they're supposed to be doing.
What happened? How did we reach this point?
Like, how did we reach this point in which Patrik Laine is not seen as a star, but rather seen as a person who is talented but can't get to the next level? It all began with Patrik Laine and his work ethic, because it's clear that he doesn't work as hard as some older veterans like Mark Scheifele or Blake Wheelers or Nick Ehlers, right? He's made multiple comments on teammates. He's also made comments about how, like, he he chirps his teammates, and it's frustrating because you would think that Patrik Laine is someone who would be a breakout candidate for a couple of years now. But the paradox has mostly to do with Patrik Laine just not being satisfied with his teammates, pulling a bit of attitude, treating himself as if he's the best player when the Jets have other all-stars like Blake Wheeler, like Mark Scheifele, who are arguably better than Patrik Laine. And this is just not the type of attitude you want to see from a young player. And so, why does this attitude bring down his play? Because he's focusing more on chatting than his play. And this really, deters his play. Because you can see, in 2017-2018, he established himself as someone who was going to be that Ovechkin. 44 goals, 26 assists, 70 points. That is amazing. People expected that in 2018 he would take the final leap to be among one of the best NHL players. But instead, he had a major drop-back season in which he only scored 50 points, in which he seemed even a liability to Winnipeg sometimes, because his defense isn't the best. And it's also a interesting feat that people compared him to Alex Ovechkin. I think part of Patrik Laine's downfall has been these extreme comparisons to Alex Ovechkin. To compare any player to Alex Ovechkin is already putting them at a ton of pressure, because Alex Ovechkin has been a superstar that the NHL has seen, and he's been arguably one of the greatest goal scorers of NHL history, and he might even pass Wayne Gretzky in goal scoring. And so to compare Patrik Laine with Alex Ovechkin was just not fair by people. And I think part of that has gone to Patrik Laine's head. But let's talk about some other things now. So why has the Winnipeg Jets mismanaged Patrik Laine so much? Because I think they have actually allowed Patrik Laine to develop like this. They put him on the first line. They treated him as a franchise star. And like I said, they should. But when someone doesn't produce in 20 games, like last year when he had a 17-game slump of not scoring, that's when you gotta demote him and not play him on the first line. That's when, as a team, you gotta talk to him. It doesn't matter whether he's a franchise star or whether he's a fourth liner. When someone does not do what his role is in so long, then you gotta talk to them, you gotta put him in his place. And Patrik Laine has not been treated like that. We've seen a couple of comparisons in the NBA. People who demand trades, people who aren't satisfied with their teammates, it just reflects badly on them and sometimes can affect their performance. For example, although this hasn't deterred his performance, James Harden, who has been the talk of many months now, who has demanded trades from the Rockets, who has failed in the playoffs because of the fact that he can't collaborate with his teammates. This looks really bad on him, right? And I see that for Patrik Laine, unless he starts to get his stuff together and he starts to work with his teammates like a true team player, because hockey is a team sport and it requires collaboration, Patrik Laine will never get to that next step like Ovechkin has done, like Austin Matthews has started to do. Because these people, they took leadership at a young age. They said, it's about the team, it's not about me. The other day, Patrik Laine was pissed about not getting a Gordie Howe hat trick. The hat tricks does not matter. What matters is your team performance. And like that day, the Winnipeg Jets actually the Winnipeg Jets was the Winnipeg Jets probably So yeah, he was pissed to miss a Gordie Howe hat trick in the opening game of this season versus Calgary. But what he didn't acknowledge is a team's win. The team won that game. But all he said was, I am pissed off because I wanted to get a Gordie Howe hat trick. That's not what team leaders do. Team leaders say, I'm happy to get the dub, let's move on, let's keep getting victories. Simple as that. They let their play on the ice talk, and they don't actually talk, like Patrik Laine has been doing for a long time now. As you can see, this is a quote from TSN. I was pissed off because that would have been a Gordie Howe hat trick. That one time when I dropped my gloves, I got a 2-minute penalty. So that's kind of embarrassing. But did he talk about how the win on opening night feels good? No. Whereas look at Nick Ehlers. He's a star, and rather than talking about himself, it says it gets a team fired up. I've maybe been a little bit in his head in the last week, saying he hasn't fought yet and when it's gonna happen. I think he took that a little personal. And that's a sort of encouragement that another teammate would give. Is that, hey, you haven't fought yet. And fighting is sometimes actually pretty good. And fighting can give us some energy. Yeah, Patrik Laine probably shouldn't fight often. But the case of the matter is that if your team needs a fight, anyone should be able to provide it. Whether it's your superstar or a fourth line scrub. And that is why I want to sum up this video by saying that Patrik Laine can become what he was slated to become. He can become a person like Ovechkin. He just needs to put his ego aside, and he needs to stand up for what matters most, which is a team. And that way, not only will his points and goals increase, but the team will get more victories. Winnipeg Jets now have been competitors for quite a while, but in the playoffs, they've been failing to get it done. And one of the biggest reasons why this is because Patrik Laine has not exactly been the playoff player that Winnipeg would have expected.